Okay, my coordinates are 30 degrees by 14.684 north, and then west by 88 degrees by 46.79. Yes, there's lots of people breathing on the boat. Like 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So the first thing that comes out to me, Phil, is the fact that not only was this longer, but one of the other things that this gentleman said, this expert said, was that the digital fingerprint was different and the content of the clips was different. And now we know with AI, it's so easy to doctor these types of calls and these types of, what they call evidence. Yeah. So I think that's really easy to happen. The other thing that really sticks out to me, Phil, is the fact that this kid is calling the CETO company. He's calling for help. He's calling for someone to come. It kind of defies logic if you think that they're out there doing something sinister, trying to hide this murder that they perpetrated. Yeah. And then they're calling and saying, come and help us. Doesn't make sense. Why are they going to bring people to them if that's happening? And if it was an accident and Nolan was there, they would be saying that. They would be saying, send the EMS.
Well, people are saying that they hear in this audio, which, as you mentioned, it's 20 seconds longer than the official audio that was publicly released. So how do you get a longer recording once it's enhanced than the original one, unless you're adding something to it? But people are saying that they hear, "Is he dead? Wake up," and something along the lines of perhaps Nolan's name. But we've got video footage in video 1 of the boat being towed. There's no Nolan on there. He's clearly not there. Right. The company is CETO. That's who was called. They did not respond. But on July the 28th, just a day or so ago, Officer Tatum's show obtained this video. It was taken by a passenger aboard that boat. And it's just, he's not there. Nolan is not there. He's not to be seen anywhere. And of course, the district attorney is going to put all this together, present it to an investigative grand jury, Ashley. And for those of you who are in the audience who may not know, a prosecutor can use a grand jury in a number of ways. My prediction is that this is going to all be presented to the grand jury, and the grand jury is going to return a finding that there's no there. This is simply what we always thought that it was from the very beginning, a tragic accidental drowning.
There is a quiet detail that stays with you once you learn it. On the afternoon of July 4th, an 18-year-old college football player stood on the white sand of Horn Island, 10 miles off the Mississippi coast, talking with a girl he had just met. A few hours later, the boat he arrived on left without him. 2 days after that, a National Park Service ranger found his body in the water near the island's northwestern shore. His name was Nolan Xavier Wells, and the people who loved him are still waiting for a clear answer about how those hours unfolded. Before any of that happened, Nolan was simply a young man from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, one of 6 children raised by Christine and Elmore Wansley. His siblings were Elmore, Ethan, Jalen, Jaden, and Carly. Football was not a hobby in that house. It was closer to a shared language. At Ocean Springs High School, Nolan played multiple sports, but football was where he stood out. His coach, Jake Braramlett, later remembered a young man who led by example rather than volume. Other players followed his actions more than his words. The principal, Dr. Jacob Dykes, described him as one of the kindest and hardest-working students to come through the building, the sort of person teachers and teammates gravitated toward without being asked. Christine has told one particular story more than once because it seems to capture something essential about her son. In a math class, there was a special needs student. When the teacher asked a question, Nolan quietly got the rest of the class to put their hands down so the girl could answer on her own without feeling rushed. When she got it right, he led the celebration, not as a performance, but because he meant it. The teacher emailed the family afterward just to tell them. Christine has said she always told Nolan he had to be careful when he had a heart that big, because it is not always returned the same way. Yet he remained, by every account from those who knew him, a genuinely good person. All the best parts of me are with him, she has said. Elmore described his son as a silent leader. He wanted to show rather than tell, and people followed that. Nolan's younger siblings looked up to him. After high school, he enrolled at Southwest Mississippi Community College, about 2 hours inland. He walked on as a freshman wide receiver, number 16, 6'1" and 185 pounds, majoring in general business. He had just finished his first year and was due back for summer training camp on Monday, July 6th, to begin preparing for his first full season. That deadline matters. It tells you what the holiday weekend was supposed to be. A short, ordinary break before the real work of the season started again. His coaches at Southwest remembered a young man who made everyone around him feel accepted. Even after getting no playing time in a season opener, he celebrated a team win as if he had scored the touchdown himself. Independence Day fell on a Saturday. Nolan spent it the way he and the same circle of friends had spent it before, more than once, without incident. A boat trip out to Horn Island. Horn Island is a federally protected barrier island, part of the Gulf Islands National Seashore. There is no development there, no roads, no year-round law enforcement presence. It is reachable only by private or charter boat. On ordinary days, it is known for untouched white sand and quiet. On a summer holiday weekend, it is not quiet at all. Witness accounts describe hundreds of young people scattered along that stretch of beach. Nothing about the plan, on its face, was unusual. The last confirmed sighting of Nolan alive places him on the island around 3 o'clock that afternoon. At almost exactly the same hour, someone aboard the boat that had brought his group placed a call for towing assistance. Dispatch audio later obtained through a public records request confirms the bilge pump had failed. The vessel was taking on water. That recording exists independently of anyone's memory. It was made hours before anyone knew Nolan would not be coming home. According to one of the young men on the boat, Warren Hudson, the group was dealing with a genuine emergency. He has said they asked Nolan about leaving, and that Nolan made the decision to stay on the island with the girl he had met, intending to catch a ride back later on a different boat. GPS records show the boat departed Horn Island at 4:31 p.m. It returned to its original departure dock at 5:44 p.m. after being towed at reduced speed for a stretch. Nolan was not on it. The group did not call Christine when they reached the mainland. By every account available, that was not because anyone was trying to hide something. This trip had been done before. Nolan was 18. An evening without a phone call on a holiday weekend was not yet a reason for alarm. That calculation changed just after 11 o'clock, when one of Nolan's friends called Christine directly. She has said publicly that Nolan's friends did not call her like that under ordinary circumstances. That call was the signal. She opened a location-sharing app on her phone and searched for her son. What she found was not Nolan. It was his phone, stationary on the mainland inside a friend's residence. His keys were there too. Both had made it back from the island. Nolan had not. Christine called the Coast Guard herself. Warren Hudson placed a separate call around the same time. The Coast Guard's response, based on how the situation was described, was that it did not meet the threshold for immediate deployment. No boat went out. No aircraft went up. The call was logged and the line went quiet. What followed were hours of Christine making calls, hitting walls, and being passed between agencies over a jurisdictional question that had no clean answer. Horn Island sits in the Mississippi Sound. Which agency held authority over a missing person case that originated there was not something any single department could answer quickly. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office eventually agreed to open a formal report. Christine and Elmore drove to meet a deputy in a McDonald's parking lot late that night and told him everything they knew. By then, Nolan had been missing for hours, and the clock was still running. Elmore did not wait for a command post. On the morning of July 5th, while agencies were still working out coordination on shore, Nolan's father took his own boat out and went looking for his son himself. That is the image that stays with you from this part of the story. A father on open water, searching alone, while the machinery of an official response was still assembling behind him. A command post was eventually established at the Lake Mars boat launch in Ocean Springs. The search pulled in the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, the National Park Service of Gulf Islands National Seashore, the United States Coast Guard, and the United Cajun Navy, a volunteer emergency response organization. Boats, drones, and personnel deployed. On the afternoon of July 5th, drone flights surveyed the western side of the island. The heat that day was significant enough to cause the drone batteries to swell. The flights were cut short. The search returned nothing. Early on the morning of July 6th, at approximately 8:45 a.m., a National Park Service ranger spotted a body in the water near the island's northwestern shore. Sheriff John Ledbetter confirmed it matched the description that had been circulated for Nolan Wells. The following day, July 7th, Jackson County Coroner Bruce Lind confirmed identification through dental records. He also confirmed to CNN that the swimsuit recovered on the body matched the one Nolan had been photographed wearing on July 4th. What nobody could tell his family yet, and what nobody can confirm to this day, is exactly how he ended up in that water. For weeks, the most important witness in this case was also the most absent one. Katie McCormack, 19 years old, has been publicly identified as the young woman Nolan was speaking with in his final confirmed minutes on Horn Island. She was there. She talked to him. By every account available, she was the last person outside of Nolan's immediate friend group to interact with him before he disappeared. That 90-minute window, from the last confirmed sighting around 3 o'clock to the boat's GPS-documented departure at 4:31, is where this case still lives. Everything that is unresolved, everything that is contested, everything that investigators are still trying to piece together points back to that gap. What happened on that beach in those 90 minutes is the question no one has answered yet. Nolan Xavier Wells was 18 years old. He had 2 days before summer training camp. He had a season ahead of him. He went to Horn Island on the 4th of July with friends he had made the same trip with before. He did not come home, and the people who love him are still standing in the same place they were that night in the McDonald's parking lot, asking the same quiet question, waiting for an answer that has not yet come.